Welcome to today's Explainer. We're skipping the usual pleasantries today because we've got a massive, highly cinematic story to unpack. Think top-tier Manhwa thriller vibes. It's a classic, wild tale of unbelievable betrayal, incredibly intricate lies, and honestly the most deeply satisfying arrival of karma you will ever see. We are going to break down this entire psychological chess match right here, right now. Okay, let's dive into this. Seriously, what actually happens when you give up absolutely everything? Your safety, your future, your literal blood, sweat, and tears for your own flesh and blood, only to have them systematically dismantle your life. As you'll see, our protagonist today starts at absolute rock bottom, completely stripped of everything by the exact person he trusted the most. Act 1, the ultimate brotherly betrayal. So we've got a really stark contrast right out of the gate. First, there's our main guy, Zhang Fan. He's introverted, fiercely loyal, and get this, he literally gave up his own high school education to go work in highly dangerous coal mines for 4 straight years. Why? Well, to pay for his brother, Zheng Yang. Zheng Yang is your classic, smooth-talking, college-educated manipulator. He is perfectly happy living absolutely large on his brother's literal sacrifice. And that brings us to this incredibly painful number, 2,000. That is the exact amount of rupees Zhang Fan was paid as a settlement after a coal mine collapsed, and basically almost buried him alive. He barely escaped with his life. And what does he do with this literal blood money? He immediately transfers it to Zhang Yang, because Zhang Yang claimed he was stuck in the hospital after a terrible bike accident. But spoiler alert, there was no hospital. This just brilliantly illustrates how deep Zhang Yang's deception actually goes. He completely faked the injury just to steal that hard-earned 2,000 rupees so he could throw a lavish birthday party for himself at a high-end hotel. And guys, it gets worse. To clear his own path, Zhang Yang completely lied to Yumo. That's the girl Zhang Fan had loved since they were kids. He told her Zhang Fan secretly got married and moved away. He literally erased his own brother's chance at love. Which leads us straight to this totally heartbreaking quote. Imagine this. A battered, exhausted Zhang Fan finally tracks his brother down to this fancy hotel party, and he comes face to face with Yumo. But instead of a warm reunion, she hits him with this line. Zhang Fan is completely stunned. I mean, he's been out there nearly dying in a coal mine, and the woman he loves thinks he's just some married guy ignoring her. Meanwhile, Zhang Yang is standing right there in a designer suit, smirking, as he literally proposes to Yumo with a diamond ring bought with Zhang Fan's money. It's infuriating. Act 2, A Fire and Stolen Glory. So later that night at the brothers' old ancestral home, a devastating fire breaks out. Picture the absolute chaos of this scene. Zhang Yang, the supposed loving, heroic boyfriend, violently shakes off his brother's grip and just flees the burning building in absolute terror. He literally leaves Yumo trapped upstairs. But Zhang Fan doesn't even hesitate. He soaks his clothes, runs directly into this collapsing inferno, finds an unconscious Yumo, and physically carries her out, only to pass out from the smoke and falling debris right as they escape. So the crucial point is, when the smoke finally clears and Yumo opens her eyes, coughing and terrified outside the burning rubble, whose arms does she think she's in? Keep in mind, Zhang Fan is lying completely unconscious on the ground right nearby. She's in Zheng Yang's arms. And I kid you not, he has the absolute audacity to look at her and say, even if it meant sacrificing my life, I'd protect you. No way, right? He shamelessly takes full credit for the entire rescue. And when Zhang Fan finally wakes up and tries to explain what actually happened, Zhang Fan completely gaslights him in front of everyone. He claims Zhang Fan ran for his life like a total coward. And because Zheng Yang has spent so much time building this web of lies, Yumo looks at Zhang Fan with total disgust. She completely believes the brother who literally left her to die. Act 3, The Rich Heiress Strikes. All right, I want you to meet Wakian. She is the daughter of the massively powerful Wakian group. And it turns out, while Zheng Yang was off in college spending all of his brother's coal mine money, he dated Wakian just to climb the social ladder. But she ended up discovering he was having multiple affairs. Now, Wakian doesn't just get mad, she gets even. In fact, get this, she's actually the one who ordered the arson on the house in the first place just to smoke Zheng Yang out. Eventually, Wakian's thugs capture both Zheng Yang and Yumo, dragging them down to an underground card room. And Wakian forces this incredibly brutal ultimatum on them. She says, someone must sacrifice one of their arms, literally pinned right to the card table, to secure Yumo's safety. If they don't, Her thugs are going to ruin Yumo right there on the spot.
Let's look at how the two brothers actually react to this insane, high-stakes test. Zhongfan, even though he is currently hated by Yumo, steps right up and willingly offers his own right arm to the thugs just to save her. But then there's Xingyang, our supposed hero. He cowers, he begs, and he absolutely refuses to sacrifice his arm. But here's where fate steps in. Miraculously, in all the chaos, a heavy stool accidentally falls over and completely shatters Xingyang's arm anyway. But the really tragic irony here, Yumo is so blinded by panic that she once again believes Xingyang bravely and intentionally broke his own arm to save her.
Act 4. A $1 million lie. Now, what's really interesting about this next part is Zhongfan has now opened up this humble little street barbecue stall just to make ends meet. But the issue of their burned-down ancestral home comes right back into play. Take a look at this massive number, 1 million rupees. Because of its prime location, this is the actual amount a buyer, who, by the way, secretly happens to be Waqian, pays for the charred remains of the brothers' ancestral plot. But of course, Zhang Yang sees an opportunity for some ultimate greed. He goes straight to Zhongfan and Yumo and claims the property only sold for 400,000 rupees. He hands Zhongfan his so-called half of that, which is 200,000, acting like this incredibly benevolent, generous brother. When in reality, Zhang Yang is quietly pocketing the remaining 800,000 rupees to use as a down payment for a luxury house for him and Yumo. He is completely cutting his brother out of their family inheritance. But Zhang Yang completely forgets who he actually sold a house to. Waqian shows up at Zhangfan's barbecue stall right at the exact moment Zhang Yang is boasting about his honesty to Yumo. Waqian just casually pulls out her phone, pulls up the digital contract, and delivers this absolutely devastating, satisfying quote. She shoves the screen right into Yumo's face, and for the very first time, the undeniable digital proof totally shatters Zhang Yang's facade. Yumo finally sees the actual mathematical proof of his deception. Act 5. The fake boyfriend deal. As it turns out, Waqian actually bought the house specifically to use it as leverage. She offers Zhongfan a deal. Step 1, act as her fake boyfriend for 3 months. Step 2, use this fake relationship to scare off an arrogant, arranged fiancé named Qinhua that her strict parents are trying to force on her. And step 3, if he actually succeeds in doing this, Waqian will deed the ancestral home entirely back to Zhongfan, completely cutting Zhang Yang out of the picture for good. And how exactly do they execute this master plan? Through a hilarious and highly strategic hotel room misunderstanding. Basically, Waqian gets Zhongfan drunk, strips him down to his underwear, and intentionally calls her strict parents to the room the very next morning. While Zhongfan is just stammering in complete panic, Waqian tearfully confesses to her parents that they are wildly in love and have crossed the line. Her parents are absolutely furious, but they concede and break the arranged engagement. And just like that, Zhongfan passes the test, secures his family house, and instantly gains the backing of the most powerful family in the entire city. Which brings us right to the fallout. Yumo, having finally seen that digital contract and watching Zhongfan suddenly get elevated by the Waqian family, drops this exact quote. She forces Zhang Yang to return the stolen house money and coldly declares that all of their debts are settled. She is absolutely done blindly following Zhang Yang. That trust is completely broken, and Zhang Yang's carefully constructed house of cards is finally trembling. We're going to leave it on this question right here. We have seen a man literally give up everything for his brother, only to be thrown straight to the wolves. But through sheer resilience and, a highly strategic alliance with an incredibly powerful, vengeful heiress, the narrative has completely flipped. Zhang Yang really thought he could just steal a life. But as this explainer clearly shows, karma doesn't just knock. Sometimes it buys your house, completely exposes your contracts, and brings a billionaire right to your barbecue stall. Thank you so much for joining me to unpack this wild story, and I highly recommend you keep diving into these complex narratives. Until next time.